Hello, hello. We will get started in just a couple of minutes. Just give everyone a little bit of time here to jump in. If you would like, you could put in the chat where you're from, what your role is, and your experience with AI. So if you're a beginner, super advanced, and we'll give everyone just a moment to get settled. And hopefully you're here and ready to collaborate because we are going to be storytelling with AI collaboration. Welcome, Todd from Ohio. And Dwight from Colorado Springs. All right, as you all get settled, feel free to put in the chat just where you're from and your role and what your experience is with AI, whether you're a beginner, you're advanced, looking for new ideas, whatever it may be, wherever you are in your journey, this is a perfect place for you. It doesn't matter if you're beginning or you're super advanced, but we're going to really think about how we can be creative in bringing AI into classrooms. So we are going to do some collaboration today with storytelling. The goal is for us to get into some groups and to really get in the mode of potentially being a student and an activity that you could do with students. So we will jump in. I know there's more people trickling in, but we'll get started with some introductions and then we'll get rolling. So before we start, I always like to mention that you will have the resources from today sent to you afterwards. So all of these slides and additional resources that we'll talk about at the end will be available to you. So hopefully you can take this right back to your schools and your students and have an idea for getting started or using generative AI in classrooms, specifically with writing. So we will get started here with introductions and then just a little bit of information on generative AI. If you're super advanced, you probably know a lot about it, but for our beginners, we'll just have a couple of quick facts because that is the tool that we'll be using today. And then we will tie generative AI into storytelling and then do a collaborative activity. And then finally, we'll wrap up and I'll share out some additional resources and ideas for making this happen in your schools. So my name is Jessica. I am in Wisconsin. I'm a product specialist here with Skillstruck. Before joining the team, I was an innovation coach, which is probably a very different role today than it even was a few years ago, of course, with new tools and AI and all of that. So I really come from the place of how do we bring these tools into the classroom? How do we provide teachers with the resources and the ideas and the creativity to reduce fear from this, to have some fun with it, and to really see the benefits. So coming from that lens of a previous innovation coach, coaching teachers, but also teaching students, that is really the place that I come from, providing resources and just some fun ways to get started. And I really do always love to talk about making fearful things into fun things. So I'm sure that is a very big challenge for you all as you navigate this new space, but hopefully today will help you bring some fun into this environment. If you don't know too much about Skillstruck yet, or if you do, you know that we began with computer science, and really our Chat for Schools platform that we'll be exploring today has stemmed from our current partners wondering how to navigate the space of AI. And really, we created a simple, approachable tool to continue to help students develop digital citizenship skills and things that they will need for their futures. So we are in several schools across the country, and we are just here to make sure that we make digital learning, digital citizenship, computer science, and now AI simple, approachable, and present in our schools. But let's jump into our introduction of generative AI, since that is what we are focusing mainly on today. So generative AI refers to a type of artificial intelligence that can create new content, such as images, music, and text based on existing inputs and patterns. So if you have used a generative AI tool like ChatGPT, or potentially you're already a Chat for Schools partner and you are using that tool, you know that it is completely built off of existing inputs, existing patterns. So we kind of get these human-like responses and tutoring and support when leaning on those tools. And so when I started thinking about how can we bring this into classrooms in a friendly way, how can we take something like writing, which is really one of the most common fears that we've heard is when it comes to writing and using AI tools to write essays and to cheat. And I've just been thinking about how can we turn that fear into a cool opportunity and really lean on these tools to help us brainstorm, help us get started, help us character develop, and not just write an essay for us. So this is where this generative AI and storytelling idea stemmed from, is really from that fear. So when we think about generative AI and storytelling, generative AI can be used to create original narratives, create characters, create dialogue by analyzing and synthesizing large amounts of existing storytelling content. So we're really going to explore this. We're going to explore how can we use AI to help us create a really well-rounded character or a really engaging setting, or how can we use it to develop our own narratives just with a little support from a tool to help us brainstorm. And there are numerous types of creative fields and careers that involve storytelling. And so a lot of these, of course, at the beginning, were in a little bit of an outrage with AI. But again, we're going to try to take that fear and turn it into an opportunity. And so also just thinking about our students' futures and these different careers and creative fields is how can we help them imagine how they can use a tool to support them in developing and maybe experiencing what it would be like to be in these fields and really develop skills. And that's all we can kind of think about when we're using tools like generative AI. And so some of these fields, of course, are writing, film and television, theater, marketing and advertising, journalism, digital media, public speaking, and of course, education. And when I'm thinking about these careers and thinking about the idea that oh, AI is going to take over all of these careers, we still have to consider that there are skills in order to utilize AI to its best ability, to even have it be a beneficial tool for people to utilize. And so the other day I was even, I was invited to write an article on something for a more personal way here, but I was like, how could I use a generative AI tool to help me write a short article? And without any ideas for me to prompt into the tool, like it's not going to give me really what I need. And so there are a lot of skills that we can continue to develop and help students develop in order to even utilize the tool and get what they need from it. And so in creative fields that involve storytelling, generative AI can be used to assist writers and content creators by generating ideas, plot points, or entire storylines. Overall, generative AI has the potential to revolutionize the creative process by providing new and innovative tools for storytellers to explore and expand their creativity. So even for me, in the lens of trying to create an article, it's like, how can it help me get started? How can it help me organize my thoughts? Because sometimes I'm not great at that. How can it help me more clear with my introduction? Because I'm not very great at that either. So really thinking about how we can use this as an assistant, as a companion, as a tutor, to help us really become more creative. And that's kind of what we'll explore today in the realm of how we can leverage this within education. So by teaching students how to effectively utilize a chat tool to generate ideas and encouraging students to refine these AI-generated ideas, okay, because AI is not perfect. It cannot replace humans. It cannot replace all of the things that we can do, but it can help us refine our ideas and even generate those as well. So how can we leverage this within education? So we're going to try that. We're going to try an example of that today with storytelling. So we are going to utilize the Chat for Schools platform today to help generate and refine ideas that could be potentially provided to us by our AI tool. So the following activity is meant to showcase a fun way to utilize AI-generated storytelling in classrooms. So we can come from this as a lens of, if you're a teacher here, how you could potentially use this in your classroom. If you are a coach here, how to maybe do this with teachers first and then help them do this with students. And so really the end goal of this activity is to think about how we can bring AI into classrooms with storytelling, with writing, in more of a well-rounded, thought-out way, and not just, hey, here's this tool, ask it how to do this, right? So today's goal is I'm going to demonstrate what we're going to do with a simple sentence starter for storytelling. And then we are going to get into some groups and we're going to give it a shot. So we will have access to the Chat for Schools platform. If you already have a demo account through your sales rep or you are already a partner, you can just log in that way. If you are new to this space with Chat for Schools, I will have a link for you and we'll log in and become a little bit comfortable. And then we'll go off into breakout rooms and you will collaboratively utilize the tool to do some storytelling using our writing tutor. And then we'll bring it back and share our experience and also provide you with a couple additional resources. So here is how I am going to approach this today with my storytelling demonstration. So I'm going to give everyone here, so each group, all of us, the same sentence starter. So the very same sentence that's going to begin our story. And what you'll notice, and this is why we're going to be utilizing a writing tutor specifically, is when we're taking our writing prompt. So the writing prompt that we're going to use today is, in a small coastal town, whispers of a long forgotten shipwreck resurfaced, leading a brave explorer to uncover. Now, if I just put that into our chat tool, it is going to finish that story for me. Okay, it's not very in-depth, it's not very well-rounded, but it will finish it for you. However, what we're going to approach this at today is utilizing our writing tutor. And with that writing tutor, and I'll give you a bit of a tour here in a moment, we're going to put that same beginning sentence in a small coastal town, and we're going to put it into that writing tutor. And the writing tutor is going to prompt us with some questions. So it is not going to finish the story for us. It is going to help us explore what we need further. So in your groups, think about who you might want to assign to develop the setting. Who wants to develop the character? Who wants to make sure everything can come together nicely? And kind of assign each other some different tasks and utilize this writing tutor to explore how it helps you with that. So if I'm in here and it says, do you need help with developing the plot, creating characters, describing the setting? So if I put something in here as I need help creating the brave explorer character. It is going to provide you with some ideas to get started, some questions, and it's going to continue to prompt you into coming up with your own ideas to create a strong character here. And this is really a great way to utilize this in classrooms. We've heard from current users when using something like the writing tutor, that students sometimes are like, it just asks me questions and questions and questions. And one of our teachers said to the students, well, it's no different than me standing right next to you and asking you question after question after question until you get to where you need to go. So that is really how the tutor is going to engage in this activity, is prompt you with questions, continue to help you develop your characters or your setting. So really the goal today is for you all to, in your breakout groups, go into your writing tutor with that same prompt, and I'll put it in the chat so you can just copy and paste it and start to develop your story. And when we come back to the group, you're all going to have a completely different story. And that's what's really powerful about seeing how AI can help you generate ideas, refine those ideas, and also just help you be creative, because we're not all going to come up with the same ideas here. Our stories are going to be completely different. The way we build our characters are going to be different. The way we build our settings is going to be different. And really just have a space to be collaborative and creative with our AI tools. So what you can see there is with the tutor, it's going to continue to prompt you. With that chat tool, it'll finish the story for you, which is fine too, right? You could refine that response that they give, but we really want to leverage the tutor and have that be a really, really engaging interaction between the student and the AI tutor. So what you saw there was our chat example of coming back with a response. And what you'll notice too is you're going to get a different response each time. You're going to get different questions from the writing tutor as well, which is really cool, and how that's going to lead us all in different directions. So on these slides that will be shared with you, these are just some examples of how that writing tutor interacted. But here we will have our link for our Chat for Schools access. So if you already have access, you can log in as you've been logging in. I did reach out to my reps and made sure you had extended access. So if you're like, it might have expired, you may want to try and just see if you can get in. And if you cannot get in, we will get you in. But I'm going to allow us a moment. I'm going to copy this and put this into the chat here. I'm going to allow us a moment to get set up in our platform. We'll give a brief tutor of the space. And then we are going to break off into rooms, and we're going to give it a shot. So I'm just going to pause here for one moment. Make sure you get logged in. Time for you, if you need to ask any questions in the chat, to make sure that you are set up for success. And then we'll have a tour of Chat for Schools, and I'll give you a couple more directions. All right, time for just a quick tour. So when you are into your platform, you will fill in your first name, last name, and your email, and then you will have access to the Skillstruck Chat for Schools platform. If you went to a different landing page, which has the different options for Skillstruck, just make sure you click on the chat icon. I'll see if I can show that here really quick. The Chat for Schools icon, and you'll be able to access it that way. Now, there's other things that we're not going to get too deep into today. Perhaps you already know about them. But what I would like you to focus on is visiting the platform portion down here. So the Chat for Schools icon at the bottom where it says platform, you can just open up the teacher version, and then you will be going into our tutors. So on the left side, there's a little navigation that has lessons, chats, and tutors, and you will select our writing tutor. So what you will do when you get to that writing tutor is you will paste in our prompt, and I'll put that in the chat as well. And that is how you'll get started. And I'll post it again when we get into different rooms also. But we're all going to use this same starter as I showed you before about in a small coastal town. You'll paste that into your tutor. Now, what you will do when we break off is you are going to, as a group, discuss, edit, expand on each other's ideas. So once you put in your prompt into the tutor, you'll have to decide where you'd like to go. And we're going to give you 15 minutes or less. We'll kind of see how everyone's doing. We'll bounce around to different rooms and see how everyone's collaboration is doing. But we'll have around 15 minutes. And if you're done early, encourage you to play around with different genres. So maybe make the story a little bit scary, funny. Just try to put some different twists on that to expand on it. But really, here are some ideas for when you get into your groups and you all post in that prompt in your writing tutor. Kind of decide where you want to go from there. Maybe assign different group members with different components to brainstorm. So maybe one of you is going to develop the setting, the characters, maybe the problem and the solution of the story. Potentially assign a group leader to put all your thoughts together in a Google Doc or your preferred tool, or maybe just in the chat itself. Kind of think through how you want to put all of your ideas together, and potentially assign a task manager as well, or a timekeeper, right? Keeping everyone on task, getting everyone started, making sure that you're keeping tabs on the time. So those are just some ideas. I know we're all virtual. You probably don't really know each other. Maybe your cameras are still going to be off. But really, I'm really hoping that you get a chance to give this activity a shot. And hopefully we'll have a couple of leaders in the room who can take charge and think about which group member will do which component of the storytelling collaboration. So we are going to get into breakout rooms, but before I do so, I want to leave time to see if there's any questions on the intended outcome or the activity itself. All right. Yes, we are shooting for one single story between all of you. So you're really collaborating with the AI tool, but you're also collaborating with each other. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. And Sam is going to put us into our breakout rooms. We're going to give this a try.
Andrea, hopefully you should have gotten a message to join room 2. Let me know if you didn't, and I can just swap you to a different room so you can participate. Also, Andrea, if you're having difficulty getting into your breakout room, you can just, and you can't unmute, you can just drop in the chat that you're not seeing the pop-up to join room 2, and I'll just try and switch you to a different room. Whatever works best for you in terms of letting me know.
Hey, hey, Sam.
Welcome back. How'd it go?
It was good.
Good. I don't want to ask too many questions. I'm sure Jess has a plan. I'm so curious.
Yeah.
We weren't done yet.
Oh my goodness, you got the baby there, Justine. Oh, he's so cute. Oh my goodness, love him. Oh, precious boy. Love it. I miss those days.
All right. Well, we were nowhere near done, but hopefully you at least started to kind of think about how you can do this activity in classrooms and maybe how you can pick it up the next day or the next week or do it for a week, however long you may need. But I'm just going to quickly, since I was participating in a group, we had great conversations and just a great opportunity to really collaborate and think through, like, it took a lot more thought than you would have expected of like, what do you need to ask the tool to get what you need from it? How do we piece together, the idea of the setting with this brave character that I'm developing? Justine had some like great response with it, gave her a few different avenues to take for her story. So super cool, and just putting it all together and being able to share too, like the responses from the chat was so cool. Like I was trying to develop this character and I wanted to describe that they were really good swimmers so they could, be better known for being able to reach this shipwreck. And I really loved how it said, show how the explorer effortlessly glides through the water. So I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to use that. That's cool. Um, and then we also had a conversation too of, okay, that tutor sometimes does ask you a lot of questions. And when you're trying to develop something like this setting, we even ended up going into the chat tool and saying like, hey, tell me more about Portugal during this time, in order to develop that setting. So I think that's such a cool connection to show students like, here's a great time to use this tutor tool. And here's a time where you might need to use that chat tool for developing something further, right? And not just saying, show me this story. So hopefully with these ideas in mind, you can start to learn how to leverage these tools, teach students the right time and place to utilize them, and really promote some collaboration. So we even were using it for developing some names and what we wanted our characters to be in order to represent where they were from. So lots of cool collaboration. That was a short amount of time, but hopefully you at least got some ideas to get started. So a few things before we go. Since we probably didn't all finish that, we don't have to share out our completed story segment, but I did kind of give you a peek into what we were getting started with. But the goal would be to allow your groups to share out their completed story segment or even parts of it so you can see how everyone can come up with different ideas with this collaboration among peers and with the AI tools. Um, the other thing that I wanted to just note here is how can we take this a step further? So with the Chat for Schools platform, you have access to a tutor creator. And you may or may not know this depending on where you're at with your journey here. But we have the ability to create specialized tutors in which you could put in specific writing standards and specific instructions to the tutor, so you can have even a more formal activity for really mastering different standards, or helping students go in the right direction. So special instructions with this could be different questions that you want the tutor to ask your students. Maybe you want the tutor to say, practice what you've come up with so far, like enter in what you've created so far and type in their beginning ideas. So they start to put things together in sentences. And so that is really a great connection for taking this even a step further, personalizing it to your environment more. And you're able to put a specific persona on this as well. So if you wanted to do the Brave Explorer, think of a Brave Explorer that you, like a famous one that you want the tutor to take the persona of. So Those are some ideas for even, honing this in even more, making it even more specific to your students, their needs, and even specific standards. So that's another way besides that writing tutor that you could take it one step further. And if you need some more information on those tutors or specialized tutors, please reach out after we send you any follow-ups, and we're happy to kind of talk through that further. But wanted to take a moment to just think about, as you did this activity, were there any other ideas for activities like this that you could do with students that maybe you discussed or came up with that you would like to share? So how could you use this? I know Justine even mentioned like, oh, she wanted to do something like this with teachers, but they got a little spooked. So, which we kind of saw today too. We had some people drop out when they were like, oh, I'm gonna have to go into a breakout room. But how do we make that kind of less intimidating? Justine, feel free to share.
So things that I thought about, I loved the assigning of roles. We think about students and their strengths and weaknesses. And then, so for me, I didn't know necessarily which role I wanted to take on, but as I took it on, then I started really diving into what skills I needed for that, right? Like to think through what is the setting and how does that play a role within the story. My thought was you could have students, you start with a story starter and almost like a game of telephone in a sense, but everybody like adds to the story. And as you go through, students need to learn how to make the pieces that they have make sense and take a next step. And so I thought that there was a lot that we could do. For me, I tried this with a group of teachers virtually, and I had the same reaction. I had a couple of them say, I really got to run. I've got to go. And I think that maybe, this is what we'll see in the beginning when utilizing these tools. So for me, I'm going to give it another try. I've got some ideas to take back. I'm going to try it in person, then give it a try again virtually, and see how that goes.
Yeah, awesome. I love the idea of the telephone. That's a really cool idea that I haven't thought of before. And then kind of what we just discussed as well, just think about other ways you could utilize this type of activity with students and how you can maybe make this fun, less intimidating, maybe put a time limit on it and say, hey, we're not quite ready to dive completely in, but let's try it for like 10 minutes here and there and see what kind of things we can come up with. The last thing that I wanted to share today as we wrap up here is at the end of the slides that will be shared with you today are some storytelling prompt ideas. So if you're like, oh, I love this idea, I want to do it once a week with a different sentence starter, or I want to do it with my group, but I want everyone to create a different story and not the same one. These are some prompt ideas to help you get started. So I kind of envision this as you have people in different groups, you cut these out, you give everyone a card, and have them kind of go in and do the activity that we did today. The other thing that I would like to mention here as well is if you are in person, something that could be super helpful is having anchor charts and whiteboards and really having some time for your groups to really organize who's going to do what, take on roles, but more so like even do some more pre-brainstorming of, okay, let's all agree on the setting and then you're going to go off and develop it. Let's all agree on a character and you're going to go off and develop it. And so maybe having some more planning tools in place with that in-person type workshops could be a helpful little added piece there. And then the last thing to share with you as well is you kind of saw some benefits here to our tutor. You experienced a little bit of the chat tool as well. But just think about how you can use the tool also in your everyday to save you some time. So I have some time saving prompt ideas. If you are exploring the chat tool, there is a prompt library that you can go in. But just think about how you could use different things in here to make your lives a little easier. And I also like to tie this into as well, like let's say we're doing this activity that we did today with storytelling. How about you go into the chat tool and you come up with one of these prompt ideas for creating an icebreaker for this activity. Okay, create a 10-minute icebreaker activity for 5 people to get to know each other better. So thinking of ways to just utilize the tool in one more way to make better connections and save you time and promote some teamwork and collaboration among your staff, your students. So some different ways to kind of tie in. And if you're like, oh, I really like the idea of having some pre-brainstorming or planning time, ask the chat tool that too. Say, we're doing this collaborative storytelling idea. What resources or what ideas do you have for allowing 10 minutes for educators to plan, or just different things? And it will really come up with some great ideas. So these are the last 2 slides on the deck that will be shared with you. Should you be looking for more ways to bring this into your schools? But unless anyone has any questions, that is all I have for you today. Hopefully you have some new ideas for making this fun and giving it a try with your students and your staff. So thanks for coming rather than watching the kickoff of the March Madness games today. And we hope you have a good rest of your week.